I have an interesting, possibly sort of unusual topic to dive into this week, and it's the topic of our senses. Not the census, not the thing they take every 10 years, but our senses, those five extensions that seem to move out from us into the world are empirical senses. We all know those. There are five of them, as currently reported. And it's an interesting topic for, I don't know, a spiritual discussion because it seems as though in a good deal of spirituality, there's sort of a dissuasion away from our senses and learning to develop a detachment from the qualities of the senses and how the senses and living based on those lead to suffering. And that's all fine and well, I'm sure. And maybe we could expand upon our understanding in a way that serves us and turns our senses rather than into an enemy to be quelled, but a resource to be enjoyed and to be expressed. Anyway, what I'm thinking is that our five senses, one way of thinking about them is they're like vines that grow out from our body. And like any vine, when it begins to extend, it'll grow further and further away from our body. Once it finds something that it likes, vines like to wrap around things and then crawl up them and to some degree smother what it is that they found. And as humans, it's a tendency. Now, some people have the tendency much more than others, guilty, and that is the senses might go out and we find the things that we find pleasurable in the world, the things we like, the things we love, the things that we prefer, and we wrap our senses around it. Well, how do we do that? Well, we find the things that we like to look at and we go out and we wrap our visual sense around it. We try to acquire it. Obviously, I could continue this metaphor. Do you get it? We find the things that we like to eat. How about that sense? And our tongue grows out into the world and we find the things that we like and we wrap around it and then we become habituated to that. And of course, it's the same with sound. Music, of course, we like to hear people say beautiful things about us. Smell, we like perfumes, we like flowers, some people will spend $10,000 on a bottle of perfume. How's that for the extension of a sense? And then there's this very important sense of feel, not just touching something, but that sense of feeling extending out from our body that we might call our emotional sense, and how much we can wrap that around things in the outside world, especially people, right? So I believe the danger that perhaps spiritual masters have warned us about, that perhaps has been misinterpreted, is that as our senses move out into the world and wrap around things, there's a great danger, because if we wrap ourselves around things and our happiness and our joy is dependent upon what we're extracting from what we're reaching out into the world, the thing in the world will go away. And then that extended sense of self is left bereft. It can't suck the sap of what it is we're looking for anymore. And that could be a mild pain. And of course, if we wrap our senses around something extraordinarily fundamental to our life, of course, like another human being or a job or a profession or our own body, then when that source dries up, our senses are then left in withdrawal, I guess you might say. And senses gone mad, we can extend our sense of anything to a point of obsession and addiction. We might point our senses toward shopping or the drink or the drug, or that list could be continued. Now, one of the great benefits of being a meditator is that once a day we take the tentacles of our five senses and we withdraw them in. We bring our senses from their far extension way out there in the world and we pull them, we reel them back in like one of those garden hose things. We reel them back in, and we arrive at the point where our sense, the origin of our senses. Can you imagine? With your eyes closed as we enter into the closet and we shut the door, we're no longer dependent upon the external things that we like to see, taste, touch, smell, eat, and feel. And because of that, because we've re-arrived, new word, at the origin of our senses are tempered, they're healed, they're redirected, they're adjusted. And because of that, if we can find the origin of our senses, the most beautiful things in the world are actually available right inside of us. The things that we love to see, taste, touch, and smell are actually feelings that are resident inside of us that aren't so dependent upon the arrangement or the contingencies of the outside world. I believe this is where the Eastern spiritual tradition of detachment comes in. We're to detach ourselves from obsession with the outside world, but not to kill our senses, to redeem them on the inside. Then when we open our eyes and we move back into the world from our meditation, we're not we're not grabbing or clutching or sucking at the world. Our senses actually become a means of channeling or expressing beautiful visions, beautiful words, beautiful feelings, beautiful emotions out into the world. And as we go inside and we find the origin of our senses in this unusual topic today, there's a condition, a very unusual phenomenon called synesthesia. And you hear about it in when people, it happens in the most rare circumstances, but people can see what they smell and they can taste what they hear, or three senses might be joined together. You hear of great yogis in mystical transcendence where all the five senses join together in a amalgam of bliss and ecstasy. All the senses are redeemed and connected on the inside. Now, when that happens, our senses will still move out into the world as they necessarily must in order to gain stimuli and live effectively, but we're no longer at the effect of what's at the far end of our senses for our enjoyment and our bliss. I've bitten off a big topic. I'll expand on it during the week, but as you move through your day and your week, you might notice where your own personal senses have extended really far into the world and wrapped around something, and whether we've wrapped ourselves around it too tightly. I certainly have done that in my life around certain things, and having our senses torn off of those things really hurts, but ultimately it's for the best. See you tomorrow.